And now, we have an exclusive here on The Next Revolution. A short time ago, I spoke to Michael Gove. He was the Justice Secretary in Prime Minister David Cameron's cabinet. I started by asking him what more needs to be done now to keep people safe. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. I just wish it wasn't in such awful circumstances. The UK has had three terror attacks now in just a few months. What do you think people must be feeling? There must be a sense that the authorities have lost control. What more do you think they need to do now to protect people?
I think there's a profound sense of sadness, Steve. You're absolutely right. After the terrorist attacks in 2005, when so many people were killed, there were no significant attacks on British soil. There were individuals who were caught up in violence, but nothing like what we've seen recently. And the Prime Minister's responded by saying that more absolutely needs to be done. Enough is enough. She said she's been crystal clear. And I think helpfully she's divided our response into at least two areas. She said that of course we need to have a security response, perhaps a review of laws, perhaps some changes to the way in which, for example, internet giants operate. But also critically, she's put the spotlight on ideology and said that we'll never win this if we concentrate simply on defence and security solutions alone.
I want to get into each of those in turn in a second, but before we do that, I just want to pick up on something that really caught our attention here in the US after the Manchester attacks, and that was when the British security authorities briefed the media to the effect that in the UK today there are 23,000 jihadis that they know of, but they're only able to track 3,000 of them. Now that sounds like a very scary picture. Is there not more that can be done to increase surveillance and control those 23,000 jihadis that are known to the authorities?
There absolutely is. There are Premier League football stadiums that could not hold all those people who are of interest to our intelligence and security services. So more must be done. You're absolutely right. And one of the things that we can look at is using something called the TPIM, a terrorist prevention and interdiction measure. We can beef that up, and we used to have something called control orders that meant that individuals who were of interest to us could be restricted in who they saw and what they viewed online, the contacts that they had with others. And these orders would be deliberately designed, sometimes teamed with electronic tagging, to ensure that people who posed a genuine threat and against whom there was clear intelligence were not able to associate with others who were bent on causing, the most horrific acts.
I just want to bring in another aspect of this argument that I know a lot of people have been interested in here, which is the whole question of immigration and, in fact, Brexit, and the relationship between British law and European law. And this is something that you've been very focused on.
Yes.
Do you think that this is the ability of the UK authorities to respond to, deal with and prevent terrorism will improve after the UK leaves the EU?
Absolutely, and it's not just my view, it's the view of intelligence chiefs in both Britain and America. The way in which European courts operate mean that they sometimes give instructions, in effect, to our judges and our parliaments that mean that we can't pass the laws or deport the criminals who we think are necessary in order to keep our people safe. More than that, if you have control of your borders and control of your laws, you can ensure not just that you keep people out, but that you also deal in a fast and effective way with individuals who mean your country harm. And the point's been made before by our former head of Interpol that the current way in which the EU operates provides an opportunity for terrorists and extremists to operate with a greater degree of freedom than any of us would want to see in the interest of national security.
Now, another version of that Theresa May pointed to today in terms of giving terrorists and potential terrorists the freedom to operate, and in her phrase, safe spaces to operate, is online. And she had a very strong message today for Silicon Valley-based tech companies, calling on them to do a lot more to fight terror. Where do you stand on that question?
Well, I think that one of the precious things that the internet has brought is the ability for people to communicate, make connections, marshal information, and strengthen relationships, and that's a great thing. But as with any new technology, there's also the potential for people who wish us ill and who want to, in effect, destroy relationships, end freedom, banish us back to the Dark Ages. There's a possibility that they can exploit that in specific ways. And what I'd like to see is leaders of tech giants and governments working together, because I think it would be wrong if we had heavy-handed legislation that would inhibit the free exchange of information between citizens across the globe. But we do need to recognize that there are routes and paths that are exploited by terrorists, and if we can find a way of ensuring, as we have, to be fair, in the past with issues like child pornography, means by which some of those responsible can have their activities closed down and then can be hunted down themselves, so much the better.